Hey, welcome everyone to another episode of the Other Side of Addiction podcast. I'm your host, Al Richards. And before I introduce the guests in the title of the show today, we just want to give out a huge thank you to Dave and Susan Kenny with Emergo Academy. That's Emergo Academy. I've personally taken their training and I took the training to be certified as an international crisis and recovery coach. However, what I found during the training is it just didn't help me or guide me into being a coach. It has actually really helped me to improve my life and how to handle different things and how to learn how to sit with my emotions and learn how to scale things and look at the lessons behind stuff and actually tap into my brain. That's what I love about Emergo Academy. It's the brain first approach. And actually, we're going to be talking about the brain today on the show. And how certain things can actually help us change the way that we think and the way that we feel. And one of the biggest things that I learned about the brain first approach is I think the majority of us think our brain controls us, and that is really not true. And I hope our guests will touch base on that a little bit today too. But we actually have control of our brain. We actually have control of our thoughts. We actually have control of our emotions. And society has us thinking that we don't. And especially with our emotions, we're looked at as weak if we show our emotions, especially when it comes to men. That is not flipping true. And so, if you guys are interested in learning a little bit more about how to tap into your brain, I would highly recommend Emergo Academy. Check them out, Emergo Academy.com. Dave and Susan Kenny are amazing, and they are still to this day my personal coaches. I talk to them quite often. Matter of fact, I see them twice a week on a Zoom call. So, highly suggest you guys check these guys out. And I highly suggest you check out what we are about to talk about on the show. I just want to introduce Laura Anderson. Laura, thank you so much for being with us today. And today we're going to be talking about the Breathbox Studio, the magical combination. And as we get into this discussion, you're going to understand what that means. So, Laura, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to be with us.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. I love what you guys are doing and the passion behind it. And I'm honored. I'm honored to be on the podcast and be part of your network. So thanks for
Ah,
having me.
well, thank you. And absolutely. And I just want to say thank you to Dr. Rob Kelly, because I reached out to Courtney about having him possibly come on the show again for a second time. I think it was about 3 years ago when he came on. That's when I first met him. And Courtney says, not he wants to know if you'd rather have Laura. And I'm like, then I met you and heard about what you're doing. I'm like, absolutely. I'll definitely take Laura. So again, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. No, he's been great with supporting the breath box and getting legs under it. So we're very appreciative.
Yeah, he's a great man, and he's doing a lot of good things. And you guys are located in Texas, correct?
Yep, we're in San Antonio, Texas right now. We're looking to branch out, but that's where Dr. Kelly bases his practice right now. And that's kind of how the Breathbox Studio came about. He was using the programming with his clients for addiction and recovery, and then saw so much success with his clients that he realized this needs to be developed or implemented on a broader scope. So sent out to the public because it's accessible to everyone, and the benefits are just so widespread that we couldn't contain it in just a treatment capacity. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, and that's another thing too that I really love about what Dr. Rob Kelly is doing too, because he's all about the brain, right? And that's why this Breathbox Studio is being not really pushed, but really you guys are working to really get that out there to help as many individuals as possible.
Oh yeah, and it's a push. we're we're not holding back anything. This is one of those things where it's just it's common sense and such an easy way for people to be able to heal themselves and empower themselves. And like you said, relinquish that thought that your brain is in control of you. That's inaccurate. So through Dr. Kelly and his research in adopting this program, it's just we're trying to push it out as much as possible to reach as many people as possible. So they're not lost and confused in that cycle of doctor visits and medications and drugs and different types of therapies. We're trying to bring that holistic approach together in a more naturalistic way, to let the body and the brain heal itself from trauma, from chronic illnesses, from anything that's holding people back. So
Yeah.
it is a push for sure.
And our brain is so powerful, right? Because we can use our brain to help correct illnesses. I mean, it's been scientifically proven years and years ago, right? Where certain individuals have really tapped deep into themselves. And my gosh, people like the Buddhas and the monks and things like that, they've tapped into themselves for hundreds and thousands of years. And it's proven that once we learn how to control our thoughts, what a big difference it can make in our life.
Yeah, absolutely. The ancient traditions aren't just woo woo. Like some of the stuff, yeah, some of the stuff is a little bit outdated. We've evolved. It's a thing, but you could have the same argument for Western medicine. Like we're not leeching people anymore. So it's an evolution, but some of just the foundations of the ancient practices are still working. They're still valid. So to incorporate that with modern technology is kind of the paramount. This is where we are right now. And it's not to say that Western medicine doesn't have its place. I mean, medical technology has advanced to the point where we never thought possible what we could do to help people. But there's that balance, right? And there's the ethical balance, there's the medical balance, all of that. So if you can tie together the technology with the ancient practices, then you have, like you said, the magical combination. So that's where the breath box really is unique from other. I wouldn't say therapies. We're not going to call it a therapy unless it's used in a therapeutic setting, but other means of increasing wellness in people.
Yeah. Well, and I know it's coming to Utah because my good friend Travis Whitaker, who is good friends with Dr. Rob, and Travis runs
Hmm.
Diamond Recovery here in Utah. I know he is now implementing it in his program, and I'm really excited to hear the success that he's going to be getting from it. So, so our listeners understand what the breath box is. Would you like to explain to them what this magical combination is that you guys are doing?
Sure, sure. And that's the thing. It's so funny because everybody thinks it's this big novel, like mind-blowing invention, and it's not. It's just a nice little combination. It's like back in the South when we make our gumbo. It's just a combination of the good stuff, and it comes out magic. So, what it is it's intentional guided activating breath work. So this isn't necessarily just passive mindful breathing. Some of it is, but the point of the activation breathing is to start to open up the subconscious, open up at a cellular level, start to move the chemicals in the body around, move the oxygen, build up CO2, lots of different scientific things going on within the body just by actively breathing. And by that, I mean in and out through the mouth, which is somewhat uncomfortable for quite a lot of people, myself included. As a yoga teacher, I do not breathe out of my mouth or in through my mouth. So this is kind of counter to what our resting respiration would be. It's an activation of the body. So through that guided intentional active breathing, you're opening everything up, you're getting things moving, and then the magic comes with a combination of sound frequencies and tones. So we use 432 hertz sound frequencies to first ground the nervous system down and get it balanced. That's set pretty much through all the session, but then we incorporate binaural beats, isochronic tones, and solfeggio tones as well. So it's just kind of a symphony of varying tones and frequencies to start to trigger the neurons in the brain. We're going across the hemispheres with the different tones and the frequencies. You hear guided narration that kind of sounds like the narrator circling your head. You experienced that in the session you did with us. Um, and we have different soundscapes, different music. There's some sessions where there's some ancient chanting, some different voices. So it's combining with that all the while you're doing that active breathing through the session. So your experience is kind of going on a roller coaster with that consistent breath work and then with all the different tones and frequencies going around in your mind. On top of that, there's another layer where it's subliminal messaging, which is also a big taboo for most people. But all this is linguistic programming in the best possible way. So it's the narrator whispering to you on both sides of your brain positive affirmations. You can do this. You are strong. You can control your stress and anxiety. You are empowered. You are safe. Things like that, but then there's also sublimation that you're not necessarily going to hear right up front. It's way in the background, tapping into the subconscious. So now we have active breath work, we have linguistic programming, and we have all the different sound frequencies and tones coming together in this beautiful conglomeration that not only fully immerses your brain in all this sound technology, but it's also somatically flooding your system through the breath work. So everything is moving around, collecting up. We have some sessions where there's a primal scream or a giant sigh or a growl for to release all that pent up energy, all those emotional blockages, all that stress, anxiety, trauma, let it go through your body as that just release in that exhale, and then it softens out and re-regulates your nervous system toward the end of the session. So finish with the active breathing, do gentle breathing in and out through the nose, calming the system back down. The tones start to soothe back down to that 432 hertz, and it just finishes you off for the duration. So
So if I understand this right, and you're a yoga teacher as well, like you said, I I heard once that somebody told me the first time I took yoga that I was so worried about the certain positions and the movement and stuff. And I heard that it's not about that, it's about the breathing. That is just to kind of help you go through the breathing, the movements and the certain positions. So basically, is it the same with the breath box with the breathing? It kind of helps you go through the whole process of the subliminal messaging and hearing the frequencies and the different hertz and stuff. Is it almost kind of like the similar thing?
yeah, exactly. So what you're talking about is the mind body connection. So we're using the body to connect with the mind and vice versa. We're reopening the pathway between the body and the mind. So through the act of breathing, you're going to start feeling the physical sensations, which are just the signals from your body to your brain saying, hey, something's going on. We're either in that parasympathetic or sympathetic state right now. So everybody get ready to go. So that's moving into connecting the body with the brain, and then everything else coming into the brain through the ears and the visualization and going through that path and that journey is now sending messages from the brain back to the body. That's why some of our participants, they may feel sensations in the fingers and the toes. They may feel a temperature differential. They may get cold at some point and start to sweat at another point. Um, some clients fall asleep because their body is saying, okay, we're in that state of rest. Let's go, shut it down. So yeah, exactly what you're talking about with yoga, where you're breathing into different postures through transitions or holding into a posture, reconnect at the same time through the breath work. Absolutely.
Okay. You know, one of the issues I've noticed with myself, like doing meditation, doing sound bath, even the programming that I went through with you just, I don't know, it was about a month ago, actually, when we did it, I think 3 to 4 weeks ago. It's learning how to shut that mind off. And I have learned that our mind doesn't shut off, right? Our mind is always going. And it's crazy because there are times when I can really tap into, like if I go to a sound bath. I went to one just a couple of weeks, about a week ago, and there are times where I can really just fall into the sound and just like melt into it. Then there's other times I get it just for like a split second, and then all of a sudden my mind's going, huh, I wonder about this or I wonder about that, and it's like, wait a minute, okay, I recognize I'm not staying focused, then I bring myself back. If I understand the brain right, our brain is still being activated even though our mind is off somewhere else. Is that correct?
Yeah, 100%. And it's a wonderful characteristic of humanity because if our brain wasn't constantly going, we'd be in trouble. So and that's the number one critique I feel like people have, whether it's in yoga, whether it's in breath work, is I can't turn my mind off. That's a good thing. That's a very safe and human thing to experience. The misconception of mindfulness is in meditation in particular is people think they should be able to tune everything out, turn their mind off, and that's when they get that connection with whatever they're trying to connect to. But in actuality, it's being mindful enough to recognize when you're coming out of that state, when your mind's drifting off, and then being able to gently guide it back to your breath or your body scan or whatever you're doing. And that's the mindfulness practice, is having the realization that yeah, the monkey mind's going to be the monkey mind. We have things going on. Our brain is multitasking all the time, which is beautiful. Realize that, not critique it, don't try to change it, realize it, acknowledge it, accept it, and then bring it back to whatever your focal point is. And in this practice, in the breath box practice, it's coming back to that breath, realizing it and running back to it. Meditation, same thing. You're breathing through, you're meditating, you're focusing on a point. Oh, grocery list just popped into the picture. Ah, okay, well, let's come back to the breath, right?
Yeah.
So anything, and it's just a practice. It's a practice in day to day. It doesn't matter if you're doing something that's mindful. Well, it's all mindful, but even if you're at a task at your computer and an email pops up or an ad pops up or the dog barks or something like that, can you bring yourself back to that focus? And that's all it is. That's the point of all of it. It's just being aware and coming back. So yeah.
Yeah, I read something just the other day that Eckhart Tolle said, or Eckhart Tolle. A lot of people say Tolle. I guess that's the proper way of saying it. But he says, um, if you don't think that you're tapped in your mind, but you have a thought and you're able to realize, let's say I'm thinking something negative, and all of a sudden I realize, oh my gosh, what am I doing? I'm thinking of something negative. You have actually tapped into your mind. Because a
Yes.
lot a lot of people don't
Abs-
think that they have that, but when you are able to start recognizing it, right? It's I read a book twice and it's called The Conscious Creator. And the reason why,
Mhm.
and it's crazy that I read it twice because I'm not a big reader and I'm doing my best to. There for a while, there was a good span where I was reading every single day for about 10 to 20 minutes. And then I got out of it. And now I'm slowly doing my best to work myself back into it. But what I learned is learning how to listen to what our thoughts are. And the first time I read that book, I realized that the majority of my day, I was thinking some of the most negative thoughts possible. And I mean, some were real large and others were just very small. And I'm going, and it took me time to get there, right? It took me time to understand it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what the heck am I doing? Why am I thinking of this negative thought? And then I started changing it. And then I
Mhm.
went to an event, and I've shared this on the show a few times where this whole group of people, there was probably 30 or 40 of us. The teacher had us get in this big, huge circle, and she dimmed the lights way down. And she says, I want you to draw an imaginary circle in front of you. And I'm going to count to three. And when I say three, step into this imaginary circle, close your eyes, and I want you to think of something that makes you sad or really pisses you off. And so we did it. And I think she waited about 60 seconds, maybe 90 seconds. And she says, okay, I want you to open your eyes and step out of the box and look around the room. And you could see people crying. You could see people, me, myself, my fists were clenched. I was pissed. Whatever I was thinking about, I was really upset. And I could feel my jaw tight. And you could see that around the room. And then she says, okay, we're going to do this exercise one more time. But this time, when I hit three and you step in that circle, I want you to think of something that makes you happy, something that makes you excited. And we did the whole process again, and we stepped back out and looked around the room. There were people with tears, but they had a different look on their face. And
Mhm.
there was people smiling. And there was people that was just like, just kind of looking up and just like in this amazement. And she says, I did this exercise to let you guys know how quickly you can change what you're thinking. That fast.
Mhm.
Society has us believing that if one little thing happens, like, gosh, a good example. Yesterday, I was going to my physical therapist, and I had this freaking guy just zip right in front of me. I mean, probably within about 4 feet of the front of my vehicle,
Mhm.
and I was like, holy crap, and the old me, I would have been cussing and saying some through things and maybe drive up alongside of him and give him my finger or something, or honk my horn. But I have learned with training that I changed my thought pattern, or I could have said, that guy just ruined my whole freaking day, right? I could just let
Mhm.
that eat at me all day long.
Yeah.
Now that I recognize things, I just said to myself, huh, I hope everything's okay. I wonder if maybe he got a phone call from his wife and something happened to their kid, or maybe there's something happening to her, or who knows what it is. I don't know because I'm not in his head, and when we look at it that way, you mentioned ch changing our neurons, right? And this because of what you do, but the more we fire healthier neurons, the stronger that they get, and the weaker the negative ones come down. And I would think the more you do this breath box, the more you really start tapping into yourself and really getting deep into your thoughts and understanding. And I could see, and I know because of regulations, you cannot claim that it can cure or fix or do whatever, right? But for what I have learned from the brain, I would think that I could help fix an element that I am battling with. And I'm using it on my shoulder right now. I had reverse shoulder surgery 4 weeks ago
Mhm.
yesterday. And I have advanced so far already. And I do PT twice a week. I'm just on my third week of physical therapy. And the movement and the range I'm already getting. And I credit it, okay, to my higher power. He's healing me very well. But also, I'm doing the work by telling myself I will have full range and full motion of my shoulder. Because I've had other people go, I lost so much, I can only lift my arm up this far. And
Mhm.
I can't do this and I can't do that. And I'm like, no, 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 that's not happening to me. So I tell myself, I will get my full motion. And literally Tuesday, I got in the shower and I finally got to where I could lift my hand up and wash my hair without doing this.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, it's working.
Yeah.
And I give all the credit to my higher power, but also to that I'm tapping into my brain going, this is how
Yeah.
it's going to heal. And I feel like it's making a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is, I know people throw around the cliche of mind over matter all the time, and that does only go so far for sure. Like without the PT, without the surgery, you wouldn't be where you are, But you do have to give yourself credit for, just like you said, not being one of those people that said, well, I had to get reverse shoulder surgery. I'm never going to be able to have full function again, and this, that, and the other thing. And yeah, you can go down that path and just kind of let that fester, or like you said, you work on it and you put it in your mind and you manifest what the outcome you want to be. And I say this all the time to people, and I have to constantly say it to myself as well. um, how is your perspective going to create your outcome? And just like you said, with the traffic and the road rage and things like that, um, that's my path as well. Like, how am I going to react? And what is my perspective when something gets me sad, mad, emotional, frustrated, anything like that? And how am I, number two, on the mom side, how am I going to project this to my kids? Because that they've been the biggest keystone for me is noticing how much they absorb my energy, how much they absorb everything that I model to them. And then it's interesting because there have been a few times when I'll pick them up from school and I'll have the backseat conversation, how was your day? And the first things they rattle off are the little things that upset them or the things that went wrong. So our practice now is to switch that script. So they get in the car and I say, so what good things happened today? And we start with that because, and it's a practice that I have to take with myself as well. Like I get home, the husband says, how was your day? I can immediately start with the multitude of things that didn't go the way I needed or anything like that. But consciously retrain those neural pathways, get that neuroplasticity back in action. And the more you repeat, the more you breathe through it, the more your responses are different than your old habits, that becomes the permanence. And I know Dr. Kelly loves to talk about the basal ganglia in the back of the brain, and that's the control center, and that's what's going to remember your behavior patterns. But 100%, are you going to let that emotional piece of your brain take over? Are you going to let the executive functioning, pre-cortex, science, all the things, like what part of your brain are you going to let be in the forefront? And all that comes back to what your repetition is, what your patterns are, what your behaviors are, and what your perspective is for sure.
Mm.
So all that you said is 100%. And that's, I think, the biggest revolution in wellness, besides all the amazing different paths that people are taking to get people back in control of their own journey to wellness, is it's basically what are we taking in from society, from culture, from our environments and our backgrounds, and even ancestral paths and things like that? What are we allowing to program our thought patterns? Is it all of that? And we're just accepting all of that and saying, well, that's the way it's going to be. Or are we taking control of all that? And like you said, just little flips of consciousness. Oh man, I really am thinking a really negative thought. This entire drive to the grocery store, I have criticized somebody in the car next over. I've done this, and I've complained about this in my own mind. What can I switch off? Just like you said with the guy racing through, I do the exact same thing now. When somebody's speeding through the lanes, I'm like, oh, must be taking the wife to the hospital. I bet they're expecting their first kid or something like that. Mike, if we see fire trucks and things and ambulances somewhere, my kids get all worried and things like that. And I'm like, well, you know what? But think how great it is that we have people here that are helping somebody in need. Maybe one day you or your friends are going to be a firefighter and you're going to be helping people and saving someone's life. Like just flipping that perspective for a hot second is so paramount to everything. Um, and even with health and wellness, everybody's got a diagnosis of something, multiple things usually. And it just layers and layers and layers until I think most of humanity thinks, well, there's nothing more I can do. There's too many things piling up, piling up. I have this, and this label. So I'll just take the meds and deal with the consequences type of thing. I've seen it with parents and kids being in the special education field for as long as I've been. Like they don't know how to make their kid feel better in their own body. They don't know how to teach their children to self-regulate when something gets them all upset because they don't know how to do it themselves. We adults were never taught express your emotions or take a step back or breathe through this or do this. We were told, just like you said, you hold it in. My mom had a saying that should have been made into a t-shirt. Suck it up, sister. Like we gotta get going. So I think in our generation and the generations before, it's just been so ingrained in us that you accept your fate, you accept what's coming, and yep, the world's gone to shit. So what are we gonna do? But that's not what we need to be promoting to the next generations. Or it is. Everything's gonna go to shit, and our kids are gonna be 40 years old and all decrepit and everything because they haven't taken control of their own wellness. So yeah, I could go on and on about all that, but it just comes back to that. Those little changes you can do with your thought patterns, and then incorporating all the other modalities. Do some breath work, do some mindfulness, do some yoga, do something to get that pattern started.
Yeah. And excuse me, and breathing is such a great way of doing it. I mean, really it is. It's we don't think to breathe, right? We just wake up every day and we go about our business and we're doing
Mhm.
something that's not mindful to us. When you can use it as something as mindful, it really does help. It really does it calms the nerves. And one thing that you were talking about with the emotions, you know, we're making this sound like, oh, it can really take care of a lot of issues, which it can. However, we're human. We still have bad days, right? It's not like we can be freaking lucky go, let's go jump on the unicorn and chase rainbows all day long, and pick flowers and have sugar drops and falling out of the sky. It's learning also how to still sit in our emotions and
Mhm.
using our brains and our thoughts in a positive way. And also, my buddy, and I share this a lot on the show, my buddy Cap and I, when we worked together, we always used to tell each other, so what was your message in the mirror today? Because we
Mhm.
both had a lot of stuff going on at that time in our life. And it's with sitting with ourselves and looking at ourselves in the mirror and going, what's the lesson behind this? This is happening for a reason. Do I allow this now to ruin my entire day? Or do I allow it to go, okay, let's figure out why I'm thinking the way that I'm thinking? And when you
Yeah.
start understanding that and also breathing through it, I have just recently, about maybe 6 months ago, started doing a different morning routine. When I wake up in the morning, I go in the bathroom and I flip on the light and I look at myself eye to eye and say, I freaking love you. You're an amazing man. You're out there to do God's work and help inspire and as many people as possible. God, thank you for this day. And I change it up, right? I have this and I stare at myself in the mirror. And it really has helped me start my day out so well in the mornings, where before I was really gunning to get that cup of coffee just to get that energy, get some
Yeah.
caffeine in me. It seems like since I've been doing that, that is like my caffeine hit. It's like, my gosh, oh my gosh, I feel really good about myself. And it helps me, I feel, at least for me, that when bad things do happen or something goes on during the day, which most stuff is out of our control, and it's out of
Yeah.
our control. So what can we do about it to be able to accept it a lot more? And if it comes to the time where I have a hard time accepting it, to be able to go, okay, I need to sit with myself for a bit and I need to get this figured out, because I would much rather go through my days happy and just enjoy life, because I'll be 63 this summer. And I told myself about a year ago, I says, I have lived more years than I have left. And
Mm.
could have 20 years, I could have 30 years. My goal is to live to be 100. I tell my kids that all the time. All I ask is I have a good mind. That's all I
Mhm.
ask, is my mind is clear and I could still be mobile, right? But to be able to sit with my emotions and learn a little bit more of where I'm at, and talking about being able to control our brain, that back to the cortex, I'm guessing that's our subconscious, because our subconscious runs, if I'm not mistaken, about 80% of our thoughts, if I'm not
Mhm.
mistaken. And it's there to protect us, right? It's there to
Yeah.
go, hey, this has happened before. This is why you're feeling what you're feeling. This is the way you're supposed to react to protect yourself.
Right.
When you start recognizing that, and also I've learned through my training that you can ask the brain to find the answers for you, and it will search for the answer. It will find it. it may take time. And a good example is around the end of the year, I was really struggling with some stuff. And I was really feeling like I was being rejected. And this is something that had been building up, right? It just wasn't that moment, but it was like that moment was just putting the icing on the cake. And I decided a friend of mine has a cabin in Idaho, and she invited me to come up. And I'm like, you know what? I got to get the heck out of this valley. I got to get out of Salt Lake. I just got to go somewhere. And the mountains are my church, right? I have
Mm,
so much, I feel so much spirituality in the mountains and getting out in nature. And I did, and I started feeling a lot better. And I remember I have a 4 hour drive home, and I started asking my brain, why do I feel rejected? Not stop thinking this because it's not true, but why do I feel like I'm being rejected? And it took a couple weeks. And I kept asking myself every single freaking day. And I asked myself many times on that 4 hour drive home. One day I go and I lay my head down in bed, and all of a sudden it's like the freaking light bulb just went off. And I was like, see, over here on this side, I got God bumps like crazy. I'm like, oh my gosh, you got to be kidding me. It went all the way back to where I was 7,
oh,
all the way back to where I was 7. I found the answer. My brain found the answer for me. And it was
mm-hmm,
because when I was 7, I was diagnosed with Perthes, and it's a form of a polio. So it
mm,
affects your hip socket, so your leg stops growing, and it's extremely painful. And I walked into a hospital, but I didn't walk out. They put me in a wheelchair immediately. A few weeks later, I have a brace, like a Forrest Gump brace, and a big platform shoe on the other leg.
mm,
Well, when you go out to recess in elementary and you have this contraption on, no one wants to pick you to be on their team because
right.
you look different.
Mhm.
There's something wrong with you, right? And I realized that's where the rejection was coming from. I felt rejected as a little boy by always being the last person that got picked to be on a
Mm,
team. So when any little teeny thing went wrong, if it didn't go the way that I thought it was going to go, I was feeling that rejection.
mm-hmm.
Now, when it comes up, and it has come up, I'm like, oh, I'm not being rejected. That was just the little boy back when I was 7. So everything's good because I'm not being rejected. And I've learned how to correct it. So I'm refiring new neurons and making it stronger and stronger, even though our brain will still keep that memory there and will still
Oh,
come
yeah.
up, right? But
Yeah.
also, I would think doing this stuff like the breath box, I'm sure you guys are helping so many people with all types of addiction and traumas and mental things or just daily life stuff, right? To where the more that they do it, the more they start really falling into themselves and figuring things out on their own because we can figure things out on our own. Did I lose you?
Absolutely. Uh-oh. You froze just a little bit.
Up?
Uh,
Am I there?
I think I'm back. Can you hear
Okay.
me?
Yeah, I got you.
You're here. Mine. You good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Okay, perfect. Yeah, you're right. It's interesting because we've had people come in to do a breath box session and I say, okay, so what are you looking for today? What's your goal? What are you working through? And sometimes I'll have people say, you know, nothing. Just kind of wanted to try it out, wanted to see what it's all about. Be like, that's great. I'll put them on a session and they'll come out crying or they said it was so hard to breathe or something like that, and we'll kind of unpack that. And the reality of it is everyone's got trauma. Everyone has had something. It doesn't matter if it's perceived as just small or a big T trauma, like we like to say a lot of times, or even intergenerational, which is a big upcoming. I don't know why no one's thought of this before, but now it's more publicized where, our generations before, our ancestors have had some kind of trauma and that has trickled through our bloodline and it still impacts us and we don't know why. Can you still hear me okay? Because I feel like I'm glitching.
Yeah, it's breaking up just a little bit. It's like a pause, like there's a skip in it just here and there.
All right. I'll give it a little buffer.
It,
Or
it seems like
anytime
it's
there's cloud
working better
coverage.
now. Yeah, you seem
Okay,
to be doing much better now.
perfect. Okay, good. Um, so yeah, the one of the great functions of a breath box session is you go into it and I can't tell you, no, none of the facilitators can tell you what's going to come out of it, what's going to come up emotionally, physically, anything like that. It's it's all locked deep down inside. And just like you said, the brain takes time to analyze and find that answer. Our brain is not a Google search. And I play this game with my family all the time where like my husband and I are going to try to think of an actor or something like that. And he'll immediately pull out his phone and I'll be like, no, we're going to think this through. We're going to give it some time. Because that's what our society now is all about is instantaneous answers, instantaneous information, quick fixes, quick heals. But our brain and our body don't work that way. Like it needs that time to process and process correctly. That's why sleep is so important because that's the time where the body and the brain are regenerating and the brain is getting that opportunity to process all the memories, all the emotions, all the interactions, all the anything from the day. And if we don't allow that time, that space, that quiet, then nothing gets resolved. That's the root of disease is we're not giving the brain and the body time to process the toxins or anything that's up and coming. We just want that quick fix for a symptom, where a symptom is just the body and the brain trying to work together to tell each other, hey, something's not quite right. There's an imbalance here. But instead of going to the source, we're picking up that Advil, that cold medicine, all that stuff, and just stuffing it down to try to get it on its way. But in doing so, it's confusing the body and the brain, thinking that, oh, the body's okay. So, brain, something's wrong up there, and vice versa. So, through more natural modalities, the breath work, you're actually building up all that pent up whatever. So, if you're feeling off, if you're feeling distracted, if you're feeling some emotion that you can't pin the source to, the breath work and the subconscious reprogramming is allowing the brain and the body to get in that homeostasis place where they can process and sync, right? And that Google search does go on, but it's a lot slower. It's kind of like dial up instead of, Wi-Fi. So you have to give it a little bit of time and with consistency, like you said, we're building that practice, we're building those new neural pathway patterns so that when something does come up, the brain and the body are already ready for it. They're like, okay, well, here's our process for analyzing it, figuring it out. Now we can get going, get through. And anytime that trigger or activation happens again, this is how we're going to react to it instead of this other way. And that's something that I really want to bring home and start pushing out for the school systems and public education and parenting. Like our children have gone through so much trauma through COVID, through just through everything, through governments, through policy, through education itself, that it's all trapped up in their little minds and bodies. And regulation is not a skill that they innately have, nor do we as adults. So if you can build up that mindful practice, that breathing practice, and give them that space, give them that control and those skills to realize, yep, something's activating me. I'm getting upset, I'm getting sad, something happened, but like you said, embracing it, accepting it, and just saying, "Yep, I'm feeling this way. Now what?" Right? And it's that reaction. We cannot control the world, especially the babies. They cannot control their world, but they can control and we can control how we respond to the world and to things that are seemingly happening to us. And that's a whole nother conversation. Are things actually happening to us, or is that our perspective? My friend Shanice sent me this funny little meme the other day about this guy going on and on about how You're not on blast with anybody. These people are not against you. You do not have a beef with people. These people that you think you have all these issues with, they have their own issues. They don't care about you. So just that's your perspective, and you're getting yourself all hot and bothered about things that are not actually a reality. And I think that's where we get entangled with our traumas, right? We build it up to be something that it may be a huge trauma that has affected our life and the lives of others. Absolutely. But again, it's our perspective of what are we going to do with that? And I worked in a behavior setting at residential treatment centers and schools for a really long time. And I'd have kids that would just, they were so angry and so upset because of what had been done to them. Totally justified. But I would sit them down and I'd look them in the eye. I'd say, okay, and now what? What are you going to do about it? And they would just hands up in the air, or they'd run out of the room or something like that, some reaction. But it was the fact of, yeah, the world can be shit. The world can bombard you. Things are not going to go like the fairy tales. But how are you going to perceive it? And what are you going to do to help heal yourself and move on so that your kids and your kids after that and anyone you encounter isn't left with the same trauma residue that's on you right now? Makes sense? So then people come into a breath box session because they're ready. They're ready to release all of that. They're ready to get rid of everything that's holding them back from being their true selves, from living their life the way they want to live it, and then passing that on to everyone around them. Because once somebody feels good, everyone knows this. When someone feels good, it radiates, right? Somebody will walk into a room and it'll just like the first time I met you was online, and you just radiated the energy and the positivity and the genuine happiness to be where you were at the current time. And there are so many people like that in the world, and I look at them like, how is that a thing? But I'm learning that what you put out is what comes back into you. So if you throw out the negativity to somebody, it's going to come right back at you. And the whole surrounding is going to be in that toxic state. If you breathe out that energy and that positivity and that manifestation, that's what's going to come back to you. But you can't do that until you start with yourself. And that's where the breath box and all these other modalities come into play. Fix yourself, heal yourself, feel good about yourself. And then it's not just lip service. It's not just imposter syndrome, as everybody likes to throw around now. It's not just a portrayal of what you envision yourself to be. It's actually who you are now. Because I've tried the mirror talk. And every time I look in that mirror, I'm like, you're full of shit. Because I don't always feel it like that. But then when I do feel like that, I will look in that mirror and be like, yep, this is where we're going today. You are on the path that you need to be on. You're feeling good. You're looking good. You're alive. Your kids are alive. Your dogs are alive. Like, celebrate, right? And then you can bring that energy out. But it's come with a lot of practice. I am not an innate yoga teacher or breathwork facilitator. I came from like ground zero in the world of depression and anxiety and angst and angry. And I have started to chip away at that and build it back up to promote, just this is the new perspective for sure.
And I love how you put that, because I was thinking that in my head here just a second ago, that we are a masterpiece. I walked into years ago, I used to go to a place called Ageless Men's Health, and they had a statue there. And from the top of the head down to about the waist, it's like this guy had this hammer and a chisel, and he's chiseling away, and down from the waist down, he's like very obese, right? And I found that very cool to see, because it's like we're constantly working on ourselves, right? We're constantly chiseling little pieces of ourself out, because you are so right. It doesn't happen overnight. This is a process that is an everyday process, and we learn from it every single day. Years ago, and I've shared this on the show too, that I went to this class and they says, okay, here's your homework. Here's 7 positive affirmations. I want you to memorize them. I want you to look at yourself eye to eye in the mirror, and I want you to say them every single day for the next 7 days until you come back to the next class. Then I want you to tell me what you learned from it, and I'm all ego, right? It's like, sheesh, I got this. I've been working on myself for the past umpteen years. This is a piece of freaking cake. I realized after a couple days, I didn't have it. I didn't even have this much of it because every time I went to go say that to myself, I looked away and then I'd look back.
Mm-hmm.
Then I'd look away and look back. So I went, I don't believe it. I'm telling myself I do, but I don't believe it one bit. And it's that I shared this with somebody just even yesterday. We all have this mountain to climb, this mountain of life. And we climb this mountain. And a lot of times, like back when my hunting days, there was times I was going up a side of a mountainside and it's loose and it's rock and you're just going like crazy and you turn around and look and you've moved 5 feet because all the dirt
Yep.
and soil keeps moving out from underneath you and you're really not going anywhere, but it feels like you are, and you finally get to where you reach to where you want to go. And it's that lesson, right? We're learning these lessons as we're climbing this mountain. And then once we get them, we get a little further. And then we get a little bit more, and then we get a little further. And we reach the top of that mountain and we celebrate it. And it's like, whew, I'm here. I freaking conquered it. But you turn around and you look behind you, you're at the bottom of the next one.
Yep.
That's what this whole journey, at least for me, is about. It's like I have made such huge steps in the past. Let's see, I lost my career in 2009. So what's it been? 16, 17 years. I have worked on myself and I have come a long ways, but I haven't reached the finish line and I never will. I have so much further to go. And as I'm learning this stuff, like what you're talking about, the breath box and what all this can do for us and how we can have control and also understand we have those choices, right? When we're retraining something, we got new neurons in between there, we got that gap. And that gap is when we make the choice. What choice do you want to make? Do you want to make a choice that's going to make your life better and happier? Or do you want to make a choice that's going to make it more miserable? Right? So, I mean, some people like that. Some people like to add the misery on it just so they can play the victim even more, right? Because every single one of us play the victim. I mean, I lived the
Mm-hmm.
majority of my life playing the victim. I reacted the way I reacted because of everyone else, not because of me. It was because of everyone else.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I took a therapist when I had my anger issue back in my teenage years and in my early 20s, point that out to me with a piece of paper. And she literally was getting me upset on purpose. And I was getting angry. I could feel my legs bouncing up and down. I could feel my fist clenching. She's like, well, how do you feel right now? And I'm like, what do you mean? How the hell do I feel? Why are you doing this to me? You're really pissing me off. I'm getting really angry. She's hitting my triggers. And then she goes, well, wouldn't you rather there was a piece of paper with a dark side and a light side? And she says, with the dark being bad and the light being good, where do you feel it? I'm slamming my finger down on this table on the black side of the piece of paper. And I'm like, why are you doing this to me? You're really pissing me off. And I want to get out of here. I don't like this session. And then she goes, well, how come you don't choose this other one? And she stopped me in my tracks. And I went, what? She goes, well, do you like being angry? I'm like, well, no, that's why I'm here. You're supposed to be helping me with my anger management. You're supposed to help me learn how to get control of it. And she goes, I know, but why aren't you choosing this one? This is where you want to be, right? And I'm like, oh my hell, I have a choice. I didn't realize I had a choice, right?
Right. Right.
And it's just because of the environment that I grew up in and also just what I saw. And this is what I thought how you reacted. No fault of anyone. It's just this
Mhm.
is how I thought life was supposed to be, and this is how you're supposed to react. And now, here it's been since my mid 20s, and I have been tested so many times, but I have not once since my mid 20s put my fist through a door, a wall, a window. I've not had to go to the emergency center to have wood splinters taken out of my knuckles, or thought I have a broken foot because I kicked something that was stupid and hard and knocked me off my feet.
Mhm.
It's like, my gosh, I've learned how to choose a different way. And it takes time because we have been programmed in certain ways. Again, no fault of anyone.
Mhm.
Just this is how we've been programmed, but by hell, we can choose a different path if we choose to take that path and continuously work on it.
Absolutely. And the paths are there. Like they're all there. And that's what I love about you and others who are bringing this out to the public and showing people the path. Like there are so many options and so many paths to help you heal yourself with support, obviously. But here are the paths. Pick one. You have a choice. And you said it perfectly. Holy hell, I have a choice? Yeah, we have a choice. When are we going to stop feeling like we don't? We have a choice. So, yeah, whether it's meditation, breath work, anything, changing a job, changing a lifestyle, like in anything, the choice is there. So,
Yeah.
beautifully put.
So, Laura, we're coming up to the hour. It's amazing how quick an hour goes by, especially when you're talking about something that we both enjoy, right? That we
Yeah.
get this high impact energy about. Uh, how do people find the breath box? And I'll be sure to put all the links on the show note. And then also, I wanted to ask too, you mentioned before the show that you have something that you're going to do on the 17th. With your permission, I won't say what it is unless you give me the permission, but if you give me the permission, I'd like to post that on the links as well to see if maybe more people would come to this.
Yeah, absolutely. So to connect with us, you can go to the breathbox.studio is our website. And then Al, I know you'll put all our socials on there. If you go to the website, it'll give you more of a description, a little sampling, and then all of our different options that you can do, or you can just call us and talk to us about it, and we'll get you set up. We're available online and in person. So if you're in San Antonio, come see us. If not, we'll hook you up for some online sessions. And then, yeah, on the 17th of April at 6 p.m. Central Time, I'm going to host an online free community session. So it'll be about a 30-minute session, just so anyone who's curious can try this out from the comfort of their own home or a friend's home or a library or wherever. So, yeah, post it, send it out to whoever you like, because the more the merrier. It'll be on a Zoom link and we can just experience. And then anyone who wants to stay after and ask questions or chat about it, I'd love to start community. So there we are. That's how you can find us.
Okay, I love it. Do I have the main number for you guys to call? Because I don't want to put your personal number on there. So the number that's do I
Okay.
have that, or can you send that to me?
I'll send that to you. It's on our website, but I'll also send it with all the links and everything like that. So you have everything.
Okay, I just want to make sure I get everything on there correctly and not
Mhm.
mistaken when people come to.
Perfect.
Is there one last little thought you'd like to share with our listeners before we sign off?
I think I would just like to put out there that we have been conditioned to think of ourselves as one little drop in the ocean, where really we're all the drops in all the ocean. We are the ocean. So the power that everyone has within themselves doesn't need to be limited or inhibited.
Mm,
We're the most powerful being that we want to be. And the choice is there. You can take control of very many things in life, based on how you respond and react. So choose that power, choose that path that works for you, and feel free to veer any way you need to get to where you want to be.
man, well put. I flip and love that. Very well put.
Thank
Well,
you.
Laura, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to be on the show today. I'm very grateful and blessed to have you in my life and have had that opportunity to get to know you. And I just want to say thank you to Dr. Rob for that, right? Because if not, we would have not have met. And I'm just so
Right.
grateful to have you a part of my life and a part of my energy, right? It's just amazing. I was at a networking group this morning, and this gal she came to my table that I was facilitating, and she come up to me, excuse me, after the event. And her and I sat and talked for about 15 minutes. And I'm like, I got to go. I got a show to get ready for. But we both have that same energy together. We just bonded really, really well. And she's from Russia. which
Cool.
was
Yay.
really cool to meet. But again, thank you for your time, and I want to say thank you to also to everyone at the Breath Box Studio for what they are doing to help individuals. Laura said it just a little while ago. We cannot do it alone. We definitely cannot. You know, we need help, whether it's from a higher power or from another area of life to be able to help walk us through because we are not able to do it alone. And I just want to say thank you to our sponsors, Emergo Academy. Dave and Susan Kenny, thank you guys. I love you guys so much. Again, check those guys out, emergoacademy.com. And I want to give out a huge thank you to our listeners. You guys are the ones that's keeping the show going, and just a huge thank you. And I've mentioned it a few times. I'm still working on it, but I may be rebranding the show and changing the name to Through the Storm instead of AR, the other side of addiction. And basically, it's based off the bison that many of you heard me say that the bison is the only animal on this planet that runs towards a storm instead of away from it. And I think all of us need to learn how to run towards the storm instead of hiding from it or running from it because it will catch us and it will stay over us for a long period of time. So we're going to leave you with this as we do at the end of every show. Remember, guys, addiction is giving up everything for one thing, and recovery is giving up one thing for everything. We're out.